Once again, we have for you Against the Spread right here at Sportsnet for you on YouTube. And last week was really tough.
It was a tough one. I don't know that anyone would have had a great week last week with how many 11 away teams winning last week. The home teams were 4-11.
I mean,
that's amazing.
This year in general has been pretty tough. Last week, if you got 5 right, I think you should feel pretty good about yourself. If you're still in your survivor pool, you should feel great about yourself because Houston was tough on a lot of people. The Rams were tough on a lot of people.
That was a big one.
New England made a lot of people sweat for a bit.
Yep, for sure. I saw a couple people pick the Packers on Thursday night too, which I think was always going to be a risk. But yeah, a lot of people went out of Survivor this week for sure.
Some crazy numbers. Underdogs this year, 36-24-1. Road teams, 39-21-1. So it's tough to make sense of any of this, but we will endeavor to
try
just that.
I think all that'll, it'll go back to normal at some point. Those numbers are crazy. I don't think that keeps up.
I do agree, actually. And I think a lot of it is you're feeling out who is for real and who's a pretender. And now's the time when you kind of figure that out. So I think the spreads will align with that. We won't see crazy things. And I think we'll see a lot of short spreads because we're seeing a lot of parity in the league. And going on the road, as you mentioned, hasn't been much of an issue. Will it be an issue for the Rams, who are on a Thursday nighter going to Seattle? Seattle the favorite at home at just 1.5.
Yeah, Sunday's beatdown at the hands of the Bucs for the Rams was a shocking outcome, but I really don't expect that to be a pattern for the Rams. I think they're going to bounce back in a big way. I mean, the offense put up 500 yards passing. So, they can still move the ball fairly well. They abandoned the run, so looking at the run doesn't make much sense for that game. And the defense outside of that game against the Bucs has been fairly good so far. So I expect the Rams to bounce back, and they've beaten Seattle the last 3 times they faced them, including 2 straight on the road in Seattle. So I'm going to stick with the Rams. I'm going to expect McVay to motivate them to bounce back from what was really an embarrassing loss at home.
See, I think the Rams are the better team. I think they're going to end up winning the division when all is said and done, even though I really like what the Niners have done. But I actually think Seattle is going to cover and win this game because I just look at how the quarterbacks are playing right now. Jared Goff looks like the biggest financial mistake in the league, potentially. Not playing too well. I don't think he's going to end up being worth the $134 million he's getting. And Russell Wilson, with not a lot of talent around him, has been able to manufacture some points, and he plays especially well in big games. 14-2 in primetime games. Now, Thursday nighter is not what I think of when I think of primetime.
That's a bit different.
The games are terrible.
Yeah.
But I do like Wilson better than Goff in this spot. So I'm actually going to go. I mean, they're the favorite, but I'm going to go relatively off the board and go with Seattle. 54% of the public is going with the technical underdog in the Rams.
Right.
Arizona and Cincinnati. If both teams could be underdogs in a game, this would be the case.
Yeah.
Don't love either of them.
No.
Cincy, they're at home, thus they're the -3 favorite. Who do you like?
Oh, I don't know. I don't like either of these teams, and I would say that
if you dislike the least.
The Bengals, I think, just because they're at home. I think in a game like this, 2 winless teams, both of them look really bad. The Cardinals are surprisingly boring, considering who we have at quarterback and Kingsbury being the coach. But really, I don't have too much to say about this. I think in this situation, you take the home team and you just you pray that the Bengals can, with a bit of more experience than Arizona, hold on to a win.
I think this is a matchup of 2 coaches that are probably above their head a little bit.
Yeah,
Zach Taylor and Cliff Kingsbury, because both teams have been uninspiring, and specifically on the sides of the ball that they were hired to make exciting, and that would be offense. I'm actually going to take the Cardinals, and I'll take the points because neither of these teams are very good. I don't think the Bengals have much of a home field advantage at this point. I do think towards the end of the year the Bengals will get better, but that's tied to A.J. Green. and when he gets back and how healthy he is, pending free agent, so he may not be rushing back to help a terrible, terrible football team.
Their offensive line is in shambles right now. Monday night against the Steelers was a rough outing for
Which
them.
O-line is worse in this game? Do you have to choose?
I don't know.
They're both pretty bad. But we're splitting on that game as well. Atlanta, Houston. The Texans are the -5 favorite. Who do you like?
These teams are two of the teams that I'm probably most disappointed in through a month of the season. I thought the Texans, with all those weapons they have on the outside for Deshaun Watson and bringing in Laramie Tunzel to kind of shore up that offensive line would result in a lot of high-scoring games for the Texans, and we saw that on that first Monday night game. But since, especially at home, they're really struggling to put up points. They've scored 13 or less points in both home games, and Watson has been sacked 18 times, so the same problems persist as they always had. And then the Falcons, a team with so many weapons on the offensive side of the ball, still haven't been able to get it together on the offensive line. I mean, they have similar problems, I guess, when I'm saying it out loud like that. And what it comes down to for me is the Texans' struggles at home, their struggles protecting Watson, which is both an offensive line thing and him holding onto the ball too long. And so when you look at what they've done at home, I can't take at -5 the Texans, so I'm going to go with the Falcons here. But I don't feel good about it. I'm not really enthused by either of these teams right now.
Yeah, I think the Texans win the game, but I don't think they cover. That offensive line is a mess. Deshaun Watson hit 10 times. And to be honest, some of them are on him.
Yeah, he holds onto the ball way too long.
Yeah, and especially when you know that your offensive line isn't great, that ball needs to come out on time and in rhythm, and it's not.
No.
And there are the scenes of, he was pulling his Kyle Lowry impression of going out to the field afterwards to get throws in. That's not helping, right? Like that's more for show and for conversation than for actual tangible difference. The Falcons aren't great either, but I think it's going to be a close game. I think Houston wins. And if this number, it started at -4, and at -4 I would be a little bit more comfortable, but -5, just too many points. I'll take the Falcons on the road. Tampa Bay and New Orleans, two teams who have looked better than I thought. I expect a lot out of New Orleans, but I thought they'd take a step
injury
with Drew Brees' injury. I have zero faith in Jameis Winston, but
two good games.
Two good games in a row.
Consecutive games for Winston is a big deal.
In division, -3.5. Saints are favorites at home. Who do you like?
If this spread was a bit bigger for the Saints, I'd be hesitant, but the Saints at home with the defense that they displayed against the Cowboys on Sunday night, probably a defense which you've mentioned a few times on here that I think I've slept on a bit. They were so impressive shutting down the Cowboys on Sunday night. And for the Buccaneers to put together they lost that Giants game, but to put together 3 good offensive performances on the road in New Orleans, I just don't see it happening. And at that small a number, I like the home favorites in the Saints.
Yeah, I like this game so much that I'm going to take the Saints as my gold pick of the week.
Wow.
I think this number could be bigger. I would be comfortable if this was 5 or even 6. Jameis Winston has played a couple of good games in a row, which to me means that the other side of Jameis is coming.
Yeah,
this is
he's
what he
due.
does. He is consistently inconsistent.
Yeah.
And he'll put together a couple good games with a couple bad ones. Against that defense in that dome, the way they make it loud and force turnovers, I'm not comfortable with Jameis Winston as my quarterback, so I'm going to take the Saints at home to win in that one. Minnesota at the New York Giants. Kirk Cousins, who forever was franchise tagged until he was made one of the most expensive quarterbacks in football. Danny Dimes, who has 2 starts underneath his feet with 2 wins.
Talk about what a different situation in terms of hope when it comes to quarterbacks.
Yes.
Minnesota fans and the NFL in general so down on Kirk Cousins right now. And Danny Dimes can do no wrong, despite turning the ball over a bunch of times in his first 2 games.
Yeah, you can make an argument that people in that locker room, Adam Thielen, who I think people are making a little bit much of the comments. He's talking about the offense
and I think
as a whole.
that comes down. Yeah, exactly. Play calling and the whole thing.
Yeah. But nonetheless, the Vikings on the road, 5.5 favorites. Do you like them on the road?
I think the Vikings' offensive deficiencies were put on display by a Bears defense that is the best in the NFL and maybe one of the best we've seen in years. And the Giants just don't have that. They have the opposite of that. They have a really bad defense. So as good as things look on the offensive side of the ball, even without Saquon Barkley for the Giants, the defense is a big problem. So I expect what has been working for the Vikings so far outside of last week's game to work again. I think we're going to see a lot of Dalvin Cook, and I think they'll probably focus a little bit more on Kirk Cousins getting the ball to those two receivers, Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen. So I feel pretty comfortable despite the two-game resurgence of the Giants taking the Vikings here by that amount of points as well.
See, if this was 3.5 or 4, I would agree with you. But 5.5 is too much. The Bears' defense is outstanding. I'm not certain passing the ball, Kirk Cousins would have success against air at this point. And you're right, they are going to do what they do best, and they're going to pound the ball to Cook, which is great. I just don't know if you can be, almost a quarter into the NFL season and be that one-dimensional week in and week out and expect it to continue to work week in and week out, even against a porous Giants defense. 5.5, too many points for me. So
they have to do it here. They have to do. The Vikings have to start throwing the ball. The Giants' secondary is among the worst. If they don't do it now, if they struggle in this one, there are real issues. But for now, I think they can do it.
Two teams who don't have their starters in, but it hasn't impacted necessarily the way they've thrown the ball.
They even benefited them at this point.
Carolina, certainly.
Yeah.
And that is Jacksonville at Carolina. Carolina favorites at home. 3.5 is the current line. It's what it opened at. I expect it to stay at that because I think that's probably the right number.
Yep.
Yet 59% of the public with the underdog Jaguars. Are you?
I am. It's surprising, first of all, before I say why, that one of these backup quarterbacks will win a third straight game, which is crazy. When you think about who these guys are, Minshew, what a story, and then Kyle Allen, nobody expected him to be able to do this. I picked against the Panthers last week, and I said they're a level below the Texans, and they clearly weren't. And I think, again, I've been sleeping on a defense, and it's the Panthers' defense who have played really well. The secondary is really good. They got a lot of pressure. But they haven't faced a defense. Kyle Allen hasn't faced a defense like the Jags. And I think that's going to be the difference maker here. And so I like the Jags going on the road and winning outright. Not even talking about keeping it within the spread, but winning outright.
I'm pick the Jags because I wouldn't be surprised if they won outright. So if you're giving me 3.5 points, I'll take it. The Panthers' defense, what they also haven't seen is a running game like the Jags and Fournette. Now, we haven't seen that for a while.
No, it's been a long time.
But
he was rumbling the other day. Yeah.
He looked like Adrian Peterson in his prime. He looked like Leonard Fournette at LSU,
yes,
to be honest.
For the first time in a long time.
Yes, and so if they continue to do that, I think this Jacksonville team with some athletic receivers and Minshew who can buy some time and a running game that can control the clock to allow that defense some rest and to get back to its level. I do think the Jaguars are a scary team in the AFC. The issue, though, is the more they win, the longer they can hold out and not trade Jalen Ramsey, who likely will maybe a Philadelphia Eagle. And if that happens, they're by far probably the best team in the NFC, if not the league.
Yeah, that's very true.
So worth watching, not just for these two teams, but for people around the league, as Ramsey continues to find reasons not to play football.
Yeah, I mean, he has no excuse this week. I think they've got to trade him. That's got to come to an end.
Yeah,
this team is too good, and the Ramsey situation is just taking over what's happening in Jacksonville, which is a decent team that in their division can compete.
It was just a couple of years ago. They were a couple plays from going to the Super Bowl and playing the Patriots in Foxborough almost better than anyone. And now here's where we are. But I actually think the nucleus of that team is still there, and I like them on the road against Carolina.
Right.
Chicago and Oakland, both teams actually. Actually, wait a minute. No, is this not the London game?
Yeah, this is a London game, so this isn't a home game for the Raiders.
Yes, both teams going on the road.
Yeah.
But is the game still at 1 p.m. Eastern?
I don't know actually.
I have it
Because
here.
those have started at 9:30
Or
sometimes.
10
right?
a.m. Yeah, but I have
yeah.
it here for some reason as 1 p.m. Eastern.
All right.
Either way,
Yeah.
what we do know is that it is 4.5 in favor of the real road team in Chicago against Oakland, who will be without Vontaze Burfict, who for now is suspended for the year.
Yeah, rightfully so.
Who do you like?
This is the Khalil Mack revenge game,
Yeah.
and I love that storyline. I'm totally buying into that, and the way that he is just ravaging offensive lines right now. I still like the Bears to go on the road, or however we're gonna term this, and do some damage against his former team. I think he's going to have a huge game. That defense is just so smothering, and the Raiders offense, that was an impressive win going into Indy and handling the Colts like they did. But I don't think this is what that team is long term. We'll see it every once in a while, but coming up against a defense like the Bears have, they're going to struggle. I guess the wild card here is Chase Daniel. Yeah. What's Chase Daniel going to do? Is he going to manage the game well, which he seemed to do against the Vikings, or is he going to turn the ball over? That I think will be the big difference maker here, but I expect him to take care of the ball and that defense to do its job.
Yeah, I mean, a couple factors that to me make me comfortable to take the Bears at 4.5. Again, they're not a true road team because both teams are on the road. And in fact, there'll probably be more Bears fans in attendance. And two, often there is a bit of a recalibration when a team loses its starting quarterback due to injury, which happened to Mitch Trubisky. He'll be out for a little bit. It won't need surgery, but will be out for the foreseeable future. And goes to Chase Daniel. Here's the thing. Not for the long term, although I'm not sure how long Trubisky is going to be in Chicago, but for right now, Chase Daniel's a better fit in that offense.
Yeah.
One, he's willing to throw the ball farther than 15 yards. Two, he understands that offense. He basically was handpicked by Matt Nagy to come to Chicago to help teach that offense. So the fact that you have someone who in the huddle knows exactly what the play caller is thinking, to me is a benefit because there are playmakers on that offense. They just haven't been able to make plays because Trubisky has been so in his head. I think you get that defense 14, 17, 21 points. That's enough.
Yeah, the game's over.
And
that's a good point about Daniel because he's been with Nagy and the Chiefs, and he spent some time with the Eagles under Peterson. So that Chiefs regime, Daniel's been part of that for a long time. So that could play a factor.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if we were taking Trubisky and Daniel and ran them through a combine and say, who'd you want? Clearly,
you take Trubisky. He's a more athletic player. There's
certainly
better arm strength.
And they picked him second overall for a reason. They may regret it now, given who else was in that draft class.
Yeah, for sure.
But
not a great call.
Getting into and out of plays, checking at the line, calling a timeout when you're in a bad set, giving a receiver a little piece of advice before you break the huddle. All of that stuff matters. You don't see it, but it's things that Trubisky is, at this point, seeming to struggle with.
Yep.
So that's why I think I like the Bears a lot in this game. They're not my survivor, but I wouldn't be mad at you if you chose them as your survivor.
For sure.
People love the Patriots as their survivor. This is a week where you may want to consider it. 50.5 is the line, which makes them a tougher play outright in terms of against the spread. But they're going to Washington, who may be grooming a young quarterback. But both quarterbacks have struggled this far. Is that number too big for you at 50.5?
No. And yes, the Patriots struggled in Buffalo, but that Buffalo defense is a really good top 5, 100% defense. The defense in Washington is far from that. And then more so what it comes down to me is picking a spread like this is how does Washington score points? Mm-hmm. It doesn't really matter who's at quarterback. If they go to Case Keenum, that Patriots defense is going to feast multiple touchdowns, if that happens the way that Keenum turns the ball over. And if they end up going to Dwayne Haskins, the kid's not ready. So he's going to struggle, which we saw him do against the Giants when he came in. So again, the Patriots get another big game where they can, or another easy game where they can, run up the score, and hopefully it's an easy win for them. And I just don't see how Washington competes against the likes of that Patriots defense.
Yeah, I'm probably going to regret this, but I'm actually going to pick Washington to cover.
I can't wait to hear your reasons why.
Well, I mean, the Bills' defense certainly have to give them a lot of credit, but also Julian Edelman looked far less than 100%. And I think a lot of the fact that the Patriots offense was in a bit of mud was due to that. The other thing is, assuming, and we were taping this full disclosure on a Tuesday, so we don't know yet, but we'll find out later in the week. Assuming they turn the keys to Dwayne Haskins and say, what are we doing with this Case Keenum experiment?
Yeah.
Why? We're not going to the playoffs. It doesn't matter. We might as well get our next guy ready, or at least see what we have in him. He will have at least a full week to prepare and have an offense built around him, his strengths, his weaknesses. It is the worst assignment of your first ever start.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick.
Yeah, take that Patriots defense and Bill Belichick.
So certainly I expect him to struggle. Certainly I expect the Patriots to win. But will they win by 16 on the road? I don't think so. I'm afraid of the big line.
I gotta say, I'm shocked by that.
Yeah, listen, it's probably not smart. But, I'm playing a little bit more conservative. Buffalo underdogs, even though they got, I guess, the closest thing to a moral victory you can get in the NFL with a good game at home against the Pats.
Yep.
They are now on the road playing Tennessee. Who do you like?
For me, this is about Josh Allen, and yet Josh Allen struggled badly against the Patriots. He did more harm than good before he went out with that concussion. But I just don't see Barkley bringing the same kind of spark that Allen can bring in a game like this that's likely going to be really close. So if Allen plays, I like the Bills here. But if Allen doesn't go, I think this will be a really boring defensive game. But I just don't see how Barkley's going to give the Bills what they need on offense to take care of the Titans on the road. So for me, it's up in the air. Josh Allen, Bills 100%, but otherwise I can't go Bills.
See, I'm going Titans regardless because the Bills' defense has been good, but Titans' defense has been pretty good, and it's actually patterned by Mike Vrabel after the Patriots' defense.
Yeah.
So they will have the opportunity to watch that film, dissect it, and then attack it the same way that Bill and the Pats did. I just like Tennessee's playmakers a bit better, specifically if Singletary is still out for Buffalo in terms of the running game. Frank Gore he's okay, but he's not the explosive runner that you get in the rookie.
I mean, against the Patriots, he was.
Yes, but I just don't expect that
No,
week in and week out.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Here's my beef with it, though, is that the Titans are so inconsistent, and over the last couple of years, they've been the model of inconsistency, where they'll do what they did Sunday at Atlanta, which was really impressive. Mariota, who was that we saw on Sunday? But then, as soon as we heap expectations onto the Titans, they lay a dud.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I expect them to do here until they prove me otherwise.
They are the professional football team of Jameis Winston. They act very much the same, and that's why I'm afraid of him. The constant, though, for the Titans, and Mariota certainly has struggled to stay healthy and struggled to play consistent when he's been banged up. But one thing he's done specifically this year is take care of the football. Only starting quarterback to play all games and not have a turnover yet. And if they can play it close to the vest and play defense at home, I think -3 is not crazy. So I know Bills fans have been upset at me because I haven't picked them much. Then I picked them last week, and they end up losing.
Yeah, so pick against them. Then.
Yeah, right. You should be happy.
Give the Bills fans what they want.
So yeah, I'm going with the Titans in that one. Let's skip ahead to Ravens Steelers. Steelers are coming off a win, their first of the year at home, still underdogs though, in division at 3.5. This line started at 4 and it moved to 3.5. So we'll continue to watch that to see if it gets a little bit tighter. Who do you like in this one?
The Steelers needed that win on Monday night so badly. But that doesn't really change my mind on who they are. The defense is young and looks good. They can create a lot of turnovers, but I think they still have a lot of work to do. And the offense under Mason Rudolph is very, very limited. We saw the one big touchdown on Monday night to Deontay Johnson. But other than that, it was really dink and dunk with the running backs. And against the Ravens, who have definitely struggled the last 2 weeks, but I think they're a much better team. I like the Ravens to go into Pittsburgh, which they don't do often, and win by more than 3 points.
This one is tough for me because I do like what I saw from Mason Rudolph. He looked a lot more comfortable. Granted, it was the Bengals. And I am a bit concerned because Lamar Jackson, who claims he's healthy and his aversion to take off and run has nothing to do with health, he looked like he's regressed from the guy who's super confident and decisive in his reads in week one. I'm going to take Baltimore as well. I struggle with...
This is a tough one because these teams play each other close.
They do.
Historically.
Yeah, and I think Pittsburgh is better than the team we saw the first couple of the weeks.
I think you're right.
I still have questions about how good that Ravens defense is because you just look at the Ravens logo and you expect good defense, but they are getting up there in age. But I'm going to take Baltimore at 3.5 and be okay with it. Green Bay and Dallas, that line is 3.5 also. This time the home team is the favorite in the Cowboys. Aaron Rodgers coming to town. Who do you like?
Just like we couldn't make too many assumptions about the Cowboys after their first 3 games against relatively easy opponents, I wouldn't therefore make too many assumptions based on what happened Sunday night in New Orleans. I think that's a tough place to go. So I wouldn't say it's a disaster in Dallas based off the one result. And for me, this comes down to the reason why the Eagles were able to go into Green Bay and win on Thursday night, and that's the Packers' run defense. Like, we talked a lot about how this defense has transformed, and they get after the quarterback, which is true, and the secondary is really good, also true. But they gave up so many yards to the Eagles, and the Eagles weren't running the ball well, and that's the reason they ended up losing the game. And so when you look at what Dallas does really well, 2 games out of the 4 so far this season, they've rushed for more than 200 yards. And they saw what happened to Green Bay on Thursday night. And I would totally expect Kellen Moore and Ezekiel Elliott to just take over this game. And that's why I like Dallas at home. It's a tough place to play. It's a tough place to go on the road. So I expect Dallas to bounce back and the run defense to continue to be porous for the Packers.
I want to concentrate on running the football, but flip sides of the ball for the Packers. Their run game. You lose a runner in the game to a scary injury, but then just unwilling to even try and run. So much so it's 4th and 1, and
they get
you
6
pass
shots.
the ball.
Really?
Yeah. With goal to go, 1 yard, and you continue to pass and pass and pass, and not hand the ball off. Lets me know that they have no confidence in not only the run game, but that offensive line and the ability to fire off the ball and move people. If you're that one-dimensional against, forget about Dallas's D-line, which is more oriented to rushing the passer, but their linebackers run sideline to sideline.
Yeah, very true.
I certainly like Dallas in this matchup. I actually think the game is going to be really, really close because I do think, Kellen Moore, as a play caller, was humbled a bit against the Patriots, and he's going against a very good secondary with the Packers in terms of the offensive play calling. But I think Dallas can cover at home. And another big spread as we look at the last game on Sunday, 10.5. The Chiefs favored against Indy. I'm surprised that the Colts aren't getting a little bit more respect. Are you?
No. Last week I went with the Colts, and I went with my heart because I like the Colts. I like Frank Reich. I had taken the Colts the first 3 weeks, and they had done good by me. But what I didn't take into account was the fact that T.Y. Hilton is hurt, Darius Leonard is hurt. Those are their 2 best players. And if you're playing, I don't care who you are, if you're playing football without your 2 best players, it's going to be tough to compete. Now Marlon Mack is hurt. And so the Colts are dealing with a ton of injuries, and it's just going to be really hard for them. It's like you said, it's Tuesday, so we have to take that into account. Things might change before Sunday night. But if this stays the same going into Sunday night against a Chiefs team who barely pulled it out in Detroit and will be looking to show that they, are the dominant team we've known them to be, I just think it's going to be really tough for the Colts to keep up.
Yeah, T.Y. Hilton is virtually never hurt. So if he's out, it means that he's actually really, really hurt.
And he's so vital to everything they do on offense.
Yeah, I mean, he's their best player. And the only offense, I think, in the league that can withstand, losing a Pro Bowl runner and or losing a Pro Bowl receiver is the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Because
they have the MVP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were able to withstand losing Hunt last year. They lose Tyreek Hill this year.
Yeah.
Hello,
No biggie.
Sammy Watkins.
Yeah,
you get more
exactly.
targets. We keep rolling.
Yeah.
So certainly, I think when the Chiefs win, they normally win big, other than the scare against the Lions. And I just don't know how Jacoby Brissett is going to be able to put up close to enough points to run with the Chiefs. And so I like Kansas City at home, even though the line is scary. It started at 9.5. It's now at 10.5. It could go to 11. I'd still feel comfortable. Cleveland going to the Niners. 3.5 is the line for the Niners at home. Are you a believer in Freddie Kitchens in this offense for Cleveland turning around?
I like the fact that they ran the ball more.
Yes.
They did a really good job also of getting the ball quickly out of Baker Mayfield's hands. And, we talked about the Texans and their struggles with Watson getting the ball out of his hands. I think that's the answer is, quick dropbacks out in 2 seconds. And Mayfield did that really well this week against the Ravens. And I go into this week and I really don't know anything about the 49ers. Like, they've won 3 games. I feel like I don't know who this team is. I know the defense is good, but I don't know about the offense. They turned the ball over 5 times in that win against Pittsburgh at home, their last time out, and now they're coming off a bye. Given the fact that the Browns are playing really good defense now, and the offense looks like it's finding a rhythm. Jarvis Landry, that could be a wild card here if he comes back from his concussion. But I do like the Browns to go on the road and win this game against the 49ers. But this is a real prove-it game for me for the 49ers and the first time I'll really get to watch them. So if they're able to pull out a win here and cover, then maybe I'll be on their side. But I like the Browns right now.
Yeah, I'm actually going to roll with the Browns as well. I'm not totally a believer. I think that Mayfield still drifts out of the pocket. I was a little bit concerned that Odell Beckham Jr. only had 2 catches in the game, even though their offense was pretty good. And I actually think the Niners are better than advertised. They run the ball well. They have a great goal-to-go runner in Wilson, and their defense is playing pretty good thus far, even though the schedule has been relatively light. I just really, really love, and I've said this earlier, and I'm going to say it a bunch this year because they play a bunch this year in prime time. I really, really love Baker and Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry in primetime games.
Yeah.
And if this was a 4 o'clock start in San Francisco, I probably would pick the 49ers because everyone expected the Browns to be the surprise team, and it's not that much of a surprise, that, every year there's a team that's not in the playoffs that jumps in and makes some noise. People thought it was going to be the Browns, which is why they're on prime time. It may end up being the 49ers, especially if the Rams continue to mess around in that division. But in this specific spot, I just know when all the lights and cameras are out, Odell Beckham Jr. is going to have something special up his sleeve, and that's why the sheer talent on Cleveland's side of the ball, I think, will overcome. And so, if you're giving me points as well, I'll take the Browns. We've given you our picks. We'll fast forward through a couple that are less sexy matchups than OBJ on Monday night. Jets at Eagles. Not to disrespect your Eagles.
No,
saying
not at
it's
all.
not a sexy matchup.
Yeah.
I actually think the Eagles, if you were asking 10 people in our newsroom who's the best team in the NFC, 4 or 5 may say the Eagles. It's been that kind of
year. And they're a couple of drop balls away from being 3-1 or being undefeated. So
that's true.
That being said, I'm going to go with them. I thought initially I was going to pick against the Eagles and go with the Jets, a big spread, but then I remember that Falk? Is that what's it?
Yeah.
I don't even know what his first name is, but Falk will start if Darnold isn't good to go, and that's tough going into Philly and trying to beat the Eagles and even put up points. So I got to go with the Eagles there.
Yeah, that actually will be my survivor, is the Eagles. Sam Darnold, good news. He's able to talk about coming back, and people said that it could be close. He hasn't been cleared to run yet.
Yeah,
right. So let's pump the brakes. He's not playing this weekend. I'd be surprised if he plays next weekend or even after the bye. I like the Eagles and I like them big. In terms of survivor picks, I'll be basically streaming the Jets for a while if I can. The other quick matchup we want to talk about: Broncos at Chargers. Quickly, who you like in that one?
I'm going to take the Broncos to keep this one close. They've probably been the most unlucky team in football. Both of their home losses coming on last-second field goals. And Joe Flacco's not playing too badly. The Chargers, I'm not totally convinced by them. So I'm going to say Broncos keep it close. And then for my survivor, just to tack on to what you said, I got to go with the Eagles too. It's just too easy this week against the Jets at home.
I'm actually going to go with the Chargers, especially when they're at home. Broncos lose Chubb. They were just starting to get their pass rush back, and then he tears his ACL. Actually comes back, plays, and makes an impactful play, but he's now done for the year.
That's a brutal one.
I'm not sure how long they're going to allow John Elway to run this team because he's been running it into the ground since they won a Super Bowl.
Yep.
But yeah, the prospects for them specifically on defense aren't great. We've given you our survivors. So quickly, here's the top 3 picks that I've got. And these are, again, against the spread. And then, Gilo, you can give us your best bets.
Yeah, sure.
Obviously, I said the Eagles as a survivor. So the Eagles, the Chiefs hosting the Colts in that line was 10.5, remember? And I am super confident. I'm super confident in my pick of the Giants. I actually think.
Really?
Yeah, I think that 5.5 is too many points. I just have zero faith in Kirk Cousins, and to me, that's all about the quarterback. Huh. So if you're looking for a dog to put some money on, take the home dog and the Giants at the Meadowlands.
I may eat my words, but you might regret that. I think you might regret that.
Probably will.
So on the flip side, if I'm going to go bronze, I'm going to say Vikings cover at Giants, just to make that interesting.
Yep.
For my silver, Saints over Bucks. I like that, especially at that number. Yeah. And then for my gold, I like the Bears.
Nice.
I think that's a no-brainer.
Nice. Well, that's what we like. Hopefully you like this. Good luck with your picks. We'll see you here next week.